Alrighty, well, thank you everybody for joining today. We are doing an industry webinar with Jim and Rob and myself, the nutrient management team. Just to get started, my name is Megan Fonfera. I'm the onboarding specialist and marketing coordinator. I've been here for a little over 6 years now, and my primary roles include training new and existing clients to navigate the website, utilize this portal platform, which I'll kind of briefly touch on today, and then just kind of host the webinars and put out content for education through, our social media and our website and such. And then joining me today is Jim Grilliot, a laboratory field agronomist. He has been a member of the Midwest Labs field agronomy team for 22 years. He assists clients with interpretations of their soil, plant, water, and manure reports. And he also provides consultations to clients in the areas of soil chemistry and crop production. He also assists with the myLab portal and provides basic and advanced agronomic training. And then he's our sales contact here at Midwest Labs for the agriculture sector. And then we have Rob Ferris here, our senior account manager on the nutrient management team. Rob has been a member of the Midwest Labs team for 22 years as well. He, as I said, was the senior account manager, so he assists new and existing clients with questions about manure, compost, lagoon water, lime testing, livestock water, irrigation water, and fertilizer testing options, as well as the proper way to submit those samples, which we will touch on today as well. And then he helps provide clients with assistance at understanding test results. So something that we are also going to go over today. So a little bit of background about Midwest Labs. Our mission here is to drive a positive impact on the lives of our employees, clients, and communities. In 2025, we're coming up on our 50th anniversary. So we've been doing this since 1975, family owned and operated, with talented individuals in chemistry, biochemistry, microbiology, animal science, agronomy, agricultural science, and environmental science. So this just shows a timeline of the labs and when they first opened. So in 75, it was soils, feeds, and metals, followed by chromatography, microbiology, wet chemistry, and then foods and fuel came a bit later. So all of these labs help to provide testing analysis for your soil, plants, animal nutrition, food and beverage, compost, fertilizer, so nutrient management, and then fuel and environmental samples. So Midwest Labs is ISO and NELAP accredited. We have a 14-building campus headquartered here in Omaha, Nebraska. For those of you not local to the area, this is just kind of a nice little map of our campus with our main office for sample drop-off. So if couriers come in or you're passing through or you are local, you have the option to drop off your samples at our main office Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And also we do tours of our labs. So this is a good time of year, especially since it's our busy season with the fall harvest coming. You can request a tour if you're in the area to meet your account manager and kind of see behind the scenes of Midwest Labs. So that's pretty interesting and I highly recommend it. You can just click on or go to midwestlabs.com/tour-request to fill that information out, and then we'll get in touch to coordinate or just call our number. So as I said earlier, those labs provide analysis for the capabilities on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, I just want to touch on the additional offerings we have at Midwest Labs that people may not know about. So we obviously have our portal, the platform. We have industry experts like Rob and Jim. So in each account, depending on what samples you're going to submit, we assign you the account management team from that industry. So then they're well-versed in your testing and your results. We do method development validation studies here. We also have a quality assurance control team. We have our own environmental sampling team that goes out locally to clients and services, those kinds of needs. We have sampling supplies available, and we'll talk about that here today, and then our local courier services and API integration and support services. So if you have any questions about those, feel free to reach out to us. So today's agenda, I'm going to show you a quick tour of just a couple things to find on the Midwest Labs website that are helpful for your industry, and then go over our portal, and then Rob Ferris and Jim Grilliot will go over some of these manure reports. So we have a soil sample report, we have liquid manure, we have solid manure, and then we have a lagoon water. So we'll have those reports up so that they can talk about the different things to look out for and then how to figure out your application rates and such. And then we'll do an open Q&A at the end. So if you see the little chat bubble on your GoToMeeting dashboard, you can actually type in your questions there at the end for Rob, Jim, or myself. So to get started, I just suggest bookmarking our website, midwestlabs.com. And then myLab is mylab.midwestlabs.com. You can also find recordings of all of our monthly portal webinars that I do and our industry webinars like today posted on our YouTube channel after the fact, youtube.com/@MidwestLabsOmaha. So all of you that are here today and that registered, we will be sending out the recording of today's session for you. So with that being said, I'm going to take it over to Midwest Labs website. So up along top here, you can see the Get Started tab specifically. I like to call this out. This is broken up by not only the steps to doing business with us from, viewing the fee catalog, choosing your test, completing the proper submittal, and then mailing in samples and viewing results. So that's it mirrors the portal as well. But you can go through those on here, and then we break it out by industry. So I say for, agriculture and nutrient management are hand in hand, but you can click on an industry, and then that page will come up with a lot of helpful documentation as far as our recommended nutrient management testing packages, which tells you what's included in the test, the sample size amount, the turnaround time for your results to be done, and then the cost. And then over here, you'll always see forms that you can print off. So we have some submittal forms in case you want to handwrite and send those in. I'll also show you how to submit samples on the portal today. Just makes for a faster submission and getting things going into the lab. And then just some guides and resources here. So something to keep in mind. And then you can always link over to the portal right from the website. But I'm going to jump over to the portal. So when you're logged into the portal, assuming you have admin rights, I am an admin, so I'm going to show you all the capabilities you have today, and then we'll talk about adding users to your accounts with different permissions. But you get a dashboard. The user dashboard is just like a snapshot of what's going on in your account and just basic information. So a lot of times you'll see a couple of banners up here. It's just if something's coming soon at the lab, a new method or test. Our walk-in hours changed a little bit this year, so we'll notify you that there. FAQs, that mirrors the resources tab on the website, so you can also come here as well for information, and then it'll tell you how many accounts you have, how many users you've added, your running balance, and we will talk about that, and then your analysis orders. So I like to start with available analysis tab. This actually links back over to the website so you can view the fee catalog. The reason it does that is because we are constantly updating this website format, and it's the one source of truth. So I always tell people to check with the actual one on the website or your account manager for pricing information. And a quick call out is if you turn to the table of contents, it's broken out by industry. So you can just come in here to agriculture or nutrient management website. And if you just want to see manure and compost, you can hover over that page number and it's going to jump to page 26. So as you can see, this is all your manure and compost packages. Again, turnaround time, what's included, and pricing. If there's something you're not seeing on there that you need help with, contact your account manager and we will get that price quote. Okay, next will be submit samples. So I'm going to click on submit samples, and this is just how you would, it is a submittal form. All right, so you'll come in here to submit samples, and today, since we are a nutrient management webinar, we are going to specifically test or choose the sample type nutrient management for your first dropdown. And then your second dropdown for sample type, today we're going to just choose manure. obviously you can see by the industry the standard sample types that are included. So you'll have all of the others there available to you. For today's demonstration, though, I will show you manure. So I'm going to select that, and then it's going to populate my submittal form. So the red boxes will show you the required fields. So description 1, this is a field that's just, what is it? What are your samples? This is your report header as well. So I'm just saying, I mean, you can put whatever you want in here, but it's going to show as your report header. Description 2 and PO, as well as all these other fields, are not required, but if you do have a PO number for your account, you can certainly put it in there. Coming down here to sample ID, this is a number that you're labeling your samples as. So if it's just 1 or 2 or whatever, you'll just put that in here. We just ask that you clearly label each sample with a Sharpie or something to match what you have on your paperwork. And then for today, I'm going to be choosing the manure package. Rob instructed me it's probably best for you guys to, always select the manure dry or liquid land application package. And then once we get the samples in-house, we will switch it over to lagoon water when it is appropriate. So I just want to show you, if you select manure for land application, you can also click on this little I next to the package, and it's going to show you price and everything that's included in there. So in case you forget, it's just another place to view information other than the fee catalog. Date and time are not required for these, but a lot of people like to, have that on their reports. So the option would be to click the little calendar and then choose the date. And then just a quick call out on time, it is military time, no colon. So if you do try to type in, and it's 2:14 now, I'm going to get a little exclamation point. Any exclamation point is, you can hover over it and it's going to show you an incorrectly formatted field. So fix it, and then that little exclamation point goes away. Expected levels are not required for this type of sample. So I'm going to add in another sample here. And I just kind of wanted to show you that a convenient thing is, if you have a lot of samples here or a handful of samples, you can use this arrow to the right of each box once you've filled out that top line, and it's going to populate everything down through the below samples. It's sequential too, so if the sample IDs obviously are different than that, you can just click in each field and change it. All right, so once you're done and every red box is now not lit up, you can hit the review order button. It's going to give you a quick summary of what you chose, your description and your pricing total. If you have testing done during the month of August and the completed report comes out, you will be invoiced in the first week of September. So our invoicing is always in arrears to the month prior. So keep that in mind. You'll click submit order. And then, much like a handwritten submittal form, this actually needs to be printed off and put in the box with your samples. So keep that in mind. Just because you're submitting it on the portal does not mean you don't need to print it off. So paperwork needs to be in the box with samples. And you'll notice our QR code here. So that's convenient. We'll just scan in your samples. And then this is our address in the top left corner, where to ship. So this is what gets printed, and then labs stickered and testing. We do have an order supplies tab, but also nutrient management clients, you can use any plastic bottle for your liquid samples. So keep that in mind. So you don't really have supplies that you need to order through us. If you want a kit specifically, you can ask Rob or Cole on the nutrient management team for those kits to be sent out. We just ask, if you're doing your own plastic bottles, you fill it about 3/4 full. Make sure the lid is sealed tight. So that's about 12 to 16 ounces. And then we prefer dry samples to be in a quart-sized Ziploc bag. And that is because the bottle makes it hard to gather that sample to composite. So dry samples, Ziploc, liquid samples, any plastic bottles you can find and secure.
Yeah, Megan, real quick, I just want to jump in here.
Yeah.
So you guys are aware, kind of the instruction between lagoon water and manure on our sample dropdown is really relevant to the amount of solids that are in that sample. With lagoon waters, we typically see somewhere about less than 2% solids in a sample. So what that means is we'll run it through our environmental lab so that we can run those water methods on it to get those lower detection limits. So if anybody's ran a sample that's really low in solids, you'll see a lot of those reports come back in part per million or milligram per liter, so we can get those low levels. Manure is going to be basically anything else. The reporting units on a wet manure compared to a lagoon water are going to be the same. It's going to be pounds per 1,000 gallons, pounds per acre inch. It just amounts to the percent of solids that are in there. And then we typically, what we'll do is we'll make those determinations once we get the samples in-house. So it is always kind of easier if you don't know. You can always default to the manure side and we'll catch it when it gets in here. You're not wrong if you select lagoon water and we notice it's got solids in it, we'll just do an automatic flip over to the manure side. So either way, we should be trained up to put it through the lab however we need to run it based on those samples. And then one of the other things I did want to mention too, as you guys are submitting samples and you're building databases for your programs, nomenclature that you put in there is always important. So if you are building your database that you want to be able to do a searchable in the future, whether it's a management plan or whatever you're using, I always urge people to stay consistent with their nomenclatures. So if it's certain farms, use the same farm name throughout history, same sampling point. It makes it a lot easier as Megan kind of gets into here to show you some of the searchable items to find a lot of those things and group them together, and then you can pull those out as needed. So nomenclature is an important part of building any sort of database with consistency. Thanks, Megan.
You bet. Thank you, Rob. Well, we'll jump right into that, the View Reports tab, so after those tests are done. But you also can print off shipping labels. I just want to show this quickly. Since this is kind of pre-results, you would print off your shipping labels and then obviously send your samples to Midwest Labs. Shipping is broken out by UPS, FedEx, or depending on your zip code, Speedy. It does have poundages now, so it'll be 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 40, and 40 plus, which of course, if you select, the pricing does change automatically if you're selecting the different pounds. If you're not familiar with, what size or weight, most people know, but we do have this use the following table link just as a helpful guide. You can also, if it's your first time sending, talk to the nutrient management team. And then once you get going, you'll know exactly what label you need. This will kind of tell you, approximately 6 soil samples, so 6 quart size Ziploc bags will fit in that small box. 12 samples will fit in the next, the 10 to 20, 24 to 30, and so on and so forth. So keep that in mind. That is there for you. So basically, you'll just select the bullet next to, I'm going to do UPS ground. You have a quantity up to 10, but I'm just going to show you one today. Submittal forms and shipping labels are invoiced when we get them. So it doesn't matter how many shipping labels you print, as long as it's the one on the box coming to us, we're scanning that and your submittal form. So that's then what shows up on next month's invoice. So I'm just going to click next, and I'm going to make sure my address where I'm sending from is correct. I'm going to click next again, and then I'm going to select the little bullet next to my address. This is just confirming this is my address, and then it gives you the print label option. So just like the submittal form, this is going to come up slowly but surely. It's coming, and then you'll print it off and put that on the box with your samples. We also have and people ask, do you have to use our label? You don't have to use what we offer here. It's just, added things that are nice to use, but you can always use your own label or take it to whatever carrier you'd like to use. We also do schedule a pickup here. The 2 options would be Speedy, depending on your area, or FedEx. So I'm going to choose FedEx today and then schedule it. You're going through it just like you did the label, making sure the pickup address for FedEx is accurate. Then I'm just going to click schedule pickup, and then you'll get a successful, like a error, not an error, but a message that says that this has been scheduled. So If you have any questions, you can always contact the carrier after that. So after your reports are ready, one, you'll get an email with the completed report, and also you can come in here to view reports. And this is kind of going to go, we're going to show you some things that Rob already mentioned that'll make this easier for you as you're building out your database. So the reports dashboard is, I always just use the date range. You can search for specific report numbers or sample IDs, but I'm just going to pull back the date range and show you a few things. So the View Reports tab is customizable to what you're needing to not only view, but search for. So you'll notice right now this gray bar that has account, date reported, report number, info 1, info 2, type, sample ID. So this is obviously where you can view the PDF of the report on the blue, but I just want to show you that each of these fields that has a little triangle to the right of it is a searchable field. So I can search for the farm name, how I have that, my address, I can search for that. If you have multiple types in here, you can search types of, the actual sample matrix, and then a lot of people use that sample ID. So however you're, like what Rob said, whatever you're calling your samples, you can come in here and just sort by that sample ID as well. The column settings button here is something you can click on, and anything that's in line 1 is on your dashboard. So I'm going to just show you, I'm going to take away that type, because let's say you're already doing all manure samples. I'm going to put type under line 2, and I'm going to click save. Now you'll notice it kind of cleaned up. It took that column out. Now it just has my info 1, info 2, and sample ID. You can customize this at any time according to what you need to use this tab for. So that's kind of nice. So if you change your mind, or you want, you do want your invoice to show, you would move billing summary there. It would save your invoice when it does come in there. I'm just going to go back and put type now in line 1. You can also click order form in line 1. That's if you want to see that submittal form that you submitted, so you can tie everything together. And then click save. So before we get to the reports themselves, we did a solid, a liquid, and a lagoon water. And sometimes you need to export your results to a CSV or a spreadsheet. So I wanted to show you that you can do that from this tab by selecting the checkbox next to those reports. So I'm going to take my solid, liquid, and lagoon water. I'm going to go up here. There's 2 options. You can email reports to anyone. It's just going to ask you, what format and then to who. But this view results button is actually how to export your data to a CSV or a spreadsheet. Keep in mind, if you want to manipulate or sort through the data, I would recommend an Excel, because obviously CSV is not going to let you do that. You're just going to click on View Results, and that's going to bring up all the results from those 3 reports all the way along here, column by column. And keep in mind, when you're doing this and you're exporting it, the application rates are not going to show on this export document. So if you need those, contact your nutrient management team for those. But I'll click Export Data, and then this is where you're given the file format choice of CSV or Excel spreadsheet. And then once you hit create file, it's just going to ask you to name it and save it to wherever you save your documents, so desktop. The nice thing too is the View Reports tab is also up to date time-wise too. So if your report is still being tested, it'll have an in progress orange flag where the report number will be. So once it's completed, then it's assigned a report number that starts with 2 digits, usually of the year, so 2024. Anything I'm missing on that page, Rob, for these clients?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Okay. The only other thing for me on the portal is the account management tab, and I just like to touch on this. This is where you can add users to your account. So full admin access has everything on the left side here that you can see, but you'll scroll down to the bottom of your users, and this is where you'll add your new person by their email address, and then choose the add user button. And this is where you can select their permissions. So if you want this person to have full access, you can just select the account admin and it's going to default to checking all the boxes. Submitting samples is order tests. Viewing reports, obviously they'd have access to only viewing reports. Ordering supplies, or maybe it's just an accounting person and they need to view and pay invoices, then you're just going to choose billing. Click save changes. And then that person needs to check their email and finish the registration process. So setting up their information and their own password to get logged in. Anytime something changes or someone leaves, admins just go in here, uncheck their permissions, and click Save Changes. Obviously, it's just the usual My Profile tab. So if you're changing information, you can do so on the Profile tab or update a password here, reset it. If you need your email address changed, you have to contact us, and that's because we have it in numerous systems within our company, so we want to make sure we update it where it's needed for you guys. And then, like I said, if testing is done during the month of August, in September, you will get an email that says, hey, your invoice is ready, and you can click on this View Invoices tab. What that's going to look like then when you actually have an invoice, it's going to list it like this. So invoice number, account number, due date, amount, and then there'll be two options, pay or view the actual invoice. You can view the invoice again, or you can just click pay. I like to tell people to keep in mind to maybe print it off or have record of it. Once the payment's completed, it will go away. So you won't see that on your view invoices tab anymore. You can always contact us too for copies. So I'm going to go in there. If you're calling us over the phone to pay with a credit card, you'll give us that report number. Otherwise, just click pay and enter your credit card, accept the terms, and choose the process order. You will get a success or decline message, so you'll know. So before we get to our Q&A, I'm going to hand it over to Jim and Rob. They are going to go over some reports with you guys. So first up is our soil report, Jim.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that very much. So whether you're working for a company that has animals that produce manure and there is just a need to, on a regular basis, land apply that manure, or you are a consultant or a retailer working with a grower that has access to manure, or you're a grower that has access to manure. Either way, what is my question to you is, what is the goal other than, you know, land applying, getting that land applying, moving that manure away from the facility? Is the goal a need to raise phosphorus, potassium levels, raise organic matter, you know, improve soil health? What is the goal? And with that, what is most important is to have a current soil report, and that's what we're looking at here. And so what I would encourage you to do is get an S3C, which is our most comprehensive basic soil test, so that we have everything on the top and bottom that you see here. What I want to focus on initially are the salts, and so that would include the top line, the 4 salts that you see there: potassium, magnesium, calcium, and sodium. And most importantly would be sodium. And when we look at these cations, these positively charged ions, it matters what the soil texture is. So we can't just look at the parts per million column. We need to look over on the right side in the base saturation column, and the far right sodium column is key. So I want to stay, I'd like to stay below 1, but especially below 2. And this one is well below that, so we're in good shape. Next, let's look at the other salts, which are potassium, magnesium, calcium. We don't look at those as problems. However, when manure is applied year after year, they can become a problem, and I've seen it. They are included in the total salts value. So I just wanted to show you this soil report and remind you that that's really where you want to start whenever you're interpreting a manure report and deciding how much to apply. You're not going to know that until you know what's in the soil currently, because that will certainly affect how much you should apply. So Megan, if you want to move to that solid manure report, we can look at that real quick. So again, salts are the issue. And when we think about salts on this manure report, we would start with ammonium, which is a salt, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sodium. And let's look at the column that is pounds of nutrient as received per ton. And look down at the bottom where you see total salts. In general, this is fairly low as far as total salts. But the thing to key in on is what is driving that value. And if you look up above, it's calcium. Calcium is fairly high. Well, calcium really is a nutrient that can provide obviously nutrition to the plant, but it can also help out with soil structure, and that is a good thing. So at this point in time, I'm not as concerned with driving my sodium level up, because if you look at sodium, it's rather low. So based on the information you have from that soil report and what you have with this report, there's a good bit of this particular manure that can be applied. Now, you'll see in the bottom there, we have a statement that reads, keep your applications over 500 pounds per acre of total salts. Now, we'll fully admit that's a conservative number, but it's at least a guide to pay attention to. And your soil texture makes a difference too, and the amount of rainfall you get. So if you have a CEC, a cation exchange capacity under 12, I would recommend less than 500 pounds. But anyway, it's a good guide to pay attention to. And then, of course, the right side column there is an estimated availability that first year, pounds per ton. All right, let's look at the liquid, the liquid value or report, excuse me. All right, so we're going to look at the same column now, second column, but being a liquid, it's going to be pounds per 1,000 gallons. So let's go through this again. Let's look at ammonium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and then that total salts value. Well, as you can see, this is substantially less than that solid manure report. And if you see the estimated first year availability, there's quite a bit of this liquid product that could be applied comfortably. Again, looking back at that soil report that we looked at, we're starting out at a pretty clean slate based on that as far as our salts. So with that, let's move to the lagoon water. So this one looks a little different. And when you look at a lagoon water, generally the nutrient levels are substantially less than in a manure, whether it's solid or liquid. Here we don't have a total salts value. Again, looking at that pounds of nutrient per 1,000 gallon. What we do have is a conductivity value that is important in a lagoon water test. And this is a pretty low value in general. A good guide to that conductance value would be 6. And most generally, if you're below 6, you can apply this in season, in crop, over most crops. As you approach reproductive stage to just beyond reproductive stage of growth, whether it's corn, beans, otherwise, up to 12 conductance, millisiemens per centimeter, excuse me. What I guess the biggest takeaway from looking at this data would be there's no, I guess, exact answer to how much you should apply, whether it's solid, liquid, or manure. What I would suggest you do, and obviously look at that soil test, but let's think about how it's going to be applied. Are you going to, once it's applied, are you going to incorporate it, or is it going to be on no-till? What's the slope of that land? Because if it isn't incorporated, there's always a chance of runoff. If it's dry, there's certainly a chance for wind erosion as well. So think about those different situations, and we can certainly discuss options and rates from there once we know that, because the first year availability is certainly going to change based on those different variables. So with that, I'll Rob, if you have anything to add, please do. But if there are any questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Yeah, I think one thing, just going down through our reports, you know, some of the questions that we get on them when they're talking about sending in a manure sample, they always want to compare. Some people compare back to what's that compared to a fertilizer value, and obviously we want to look at NPK on those. Those are going to be your as received, so that's going to be your first column you see on those reports. So if you're trying to grade it out and compare it to a fertilizer, that would be that first column. You'd look at those numbers, and you'd always want to take it as to a percentage. So like on our liquid manure, we report those NPKs as percent as opposed to milligrams per liter. The third one down is total Keldol nitrogen. I do get questions on that. What does Keldol even mean? Keldol is just type of instrumentation that we run. It's just another one of the instruments that we have to run a nitrogen analysis on it. It basically is an analytical method that removes nitrate. It doesn't factor in nitrates into the analytical results, where on manure it's not really an issue, because typical manure we won't see much for nitrates in there. So whether you're getting a Keldol nitrogen on your report, or whether you're getting what we'll call a total nitrogen, one's by combustion, one's by Keldol instrument. So the other thing I get is questions on when we're comparing data across the board from manure to manure. One thing that I urge, again, results that we can produce, you know, are only as good as the samples that we're getting. So again, we want to make sure that you guys are doing the due diligence on your side and making sure you're getting a good representative sample of what you're pumping out or what you're land applying, whether you're agitating a pit or whether you're just sucking off the top liquid portion to drop that down. Whatever it may be, we'll want to be consistent with it. But then if you do have numbers that don't match up from, let's say, spring to fall or fall to fall, whatever your sampling is, one thing that I always want to take a look at initially is look at that moisture level, that total solids number. So that's going to be a lot of times when we have discrepancy, if you're sampling in the same spot and we're not getting the same results, look at the total solids number, let's compare those. And a lot of times you'll find that those total solids numbers are different from time to time. Where you'll see it is in your solid layers, you'll find most of your phosphate numbers, and in your liquid layers is where you're going to find a lot more of your nitrogen and your potash numbers. So that will be an indicator of if it was a different type of sample than the previous time. So those are kind of some of the questions I get on interpreting those results.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So just a note, you have this little chat bubble. You can feel free to type in your questions now for our team. And then also keep in mind with regards to how to use the portal. Obviously, you can reach out to your account manager or myself at any time. I'm happy to do those one-on-one trainings. We do a live webinar every month of just the portal. And then, of course, keep in touch on the YouTube channel, as we will be doing industry-specific webinars like today with our subject matter experts as well. So.
Yeah, maybe one thing that I'll kind of mention too, just kind of a quick rundown so you guys kind of understand the process that we get and why we want you to write. So when the samples are received at the lab, we match up the paperwork that we get to the sample IDs that are on the bottle. So we can make sure that what you say you sent is what we get. And then once those samples are put into the lab, if it's a dry sample, we're doing the best we can to homogenize that sample. And generally speaking, what we'll do is we'll actually dry and grind that sample down. So we'll take a portion of it, we'll run a moisture on the as received, and then we'll take another split of that and actually dry it and grind it so we can get a good homogeneous sample before the analysis is taking place. On the liquids, what we do is we invert the bottle. So every bottle we get, we'll actually invert it and we'll look at the sides. We will shake those containers until there is no solids sticking to the bottom or sides, everything's suspended. And then from that point, then we'll pour off into different split cups that go out to the different parts of the lab. So again, as we ask you guys to do the best that you can to making sure it's a representative sample, we on our end are trying to do the exact same thing. So we're making sure we're getting everything in those cups that's in that sample. If something does not look right to you, or you have a question on something, just note that we do hold those samples for 30 days typically. So if there is a result that looks a little goofy or you want us to recheck it, we're more than happy to. Just reach out to your account manager, whoever that might be, and we can certainly take a look at that and have the lab just double check things and make sure they're square on what we originally reported.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. We do have a question. It says, Rob, since we have special sample requirements for our land application, do we need to do something specifically in the online portal to clue into what we are needing?
So depending on what type of program you're working with, if it's just your land management program, generally not. Those, usually we can run them through as a manure as long as you have those reports come back to you. Now, if you're land applying, let's say you're land applying a biosolid or you're land applying something from a industrial or municipal waste or byproduct, and you're having to actually go through the DNR in that state, then you might be required to do a different type of testing, which more would fall in line on our environmental side. So if it's outside of the standard manure test, then we need to look at it on a one-on-one basis and find out exactly what your requirements are and who you're having to report those to. And we can also, with your accounts, once we get that ironed out, we can set up a test project specific to your account so that it stays consistent each time you send a sample in.
Great question. Also, will this be available as a recording? Yes, it will on the YouTube channel. And then also we will be sending out a follow-up email to everyone when it is finished and recorded. And then also feel free to keep asking questions, but I wanted to put this up as a last slide for you guys. Our Jim and Rob's information here, as well as my own direct numbers and email addresses. If you think of something after the fact, or you watch the recording, or you are watching the recording and you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our nutrient management team, which is Robin and Cole, has just a nutrient management team at MidwestLabs.com. So if you don't know exactly who your account manager is yet, you can always send it to that distro list. But otherwise, thank you to Jim and Rob today for their expertise, and everyone for joining today. Thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful rest of your week.